One minute, she was a devoted wife. The next, she was stranded in the ocean with nothing but her children and a breaking heart. The man she loved sailed away with someone else. But fate had other plans, because the stranger who rescued her didn't just pull her from the water, he pulled her into a future she never imagined. Before we continue, please give this video a like to help it spread to other viewers, and subscribe to our channel to have more interesting stories coming your way. Now, let's get back. The sun shimmered peacefully across the open sea as the yacht glided through calm waters. To anyone watching, it looked like the picture of a happy family vacation. Patricia sat on the deck, her soft, round cheeks glowing under the warm sunlight as she cradled her baby. Her two toddlers giggled beside her, splashing their little feet in a bucket of ocean water she'd set down to keep them entertained. But Daniel, their father, sat several feet away, completely detached. His eyes were glued to his phone. He barely acknowledged the laughter of his children or the gentle smile Patricia offered him. She tried not to think too much of it. These days, Daniel always seemed distracted, distant, irritated by the smallest things. Ever since the birth of their third child, he had changed. Late nights out, sudden trips to the gym, new clothes, new cologne, a strange kind of confidence that didn't include her. Patricia wanted to believe it was stress, work, anything except what her heart quietly feared. But today, out on the water, something felt different, heavier. As the yacht drifted into a quiet, open stretch of ocean, Daniel suddenly stood up. "Patty," he said. His voice clipped. "Take the kids inside for a minute." She frowned. "Why? They're fine here. They're happy." "Just do it," he snapped. The sharpness of his tone made her flinch. Patricia gathered the children and stepped inside the cabin, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She bounced the baby gently, whispering, "It's okay, sweetie. Mama's right here." But then she heard it, the sound of laughter, a woman's laughter, young, flirtatious, cutting through the air like a blade. Patricia turned slowly, heart thudding. There stood Daniel, with a woman she had never seen before. Tall, slim, dressed in a tiny designer bikini. Her manicured fingers wrapped around Daniel's arm as if they belonged there. Patricia's breath caught. "Daniel? Who is this?" The woman smirked. Daniel cleared his throat, avoiding Patricia's eyes. "Patricia, I need to be honest with you." Her stomach sank. "About what?" "About us," he said sharply. "I'm done." Patricia blinked, stunned. "Done? With what?" "With this marriage," Daniel said bluntly. He gestured at the woman. "This is Sasha. I'm leaving with her." Patricia felt the world tilt. "Daniel, the kids," she began. "They'll be fine," he interrupted. "You're their mother. You'll figure it out." Her toddlers clung to her legs, frightened. The baby whimpered. Tears blurred Patricia's vision. "Daniel, what are you doing? You can't leave us out here." But Daniel didn't bother responding. He grabbed a duffel bag, stepped onto the smaller speedboat tied to the side of the yacht, and motioned for Sasha to join him. Sasha tossed her hair and giggled as she climbed aboard. Daniel refused to look back. "Daniel!" Patricia screamed, desperation cracking her voice. "Don't do this! Don't leave your family!" But the engine roared to life. And then he was gone. Just like that. The yacht rocked gently as the small boat sped toward the horizon, shrinking until it was nothing more than a dark dot against endless blue. Patricia sank to her knees, clutching her children, shaking uncontrollably. Oh God," she wailed. Her toddlers cried. The baby whimpered. She was alone, on a drifting yacht, in the middle of the open ocean. abandoned. Not by a stranger, but by the man she built a life with. The sky dimmed as evening approached. Patricia struggled to stay steady, fighting panic. She whispered to her children, forcing calm she didn't feel. Mama's here. Mama's got you. I won't let anything happen to you. But inside, she was breaking. Then, a faint sound. A motor in the distance. Patricia stood up abruptly, heart pounding. A small fishing boat was approaching. Someone was coming. Someone who would change her life forever. The boat drew nearer, its hum steady and reassuring, cutting through the growing dusk. Patricia lifted her baby, waving one trembling hand as fear and hope battled inside her chest. "Hey, are you all right?" a deep voice called out. The fishing boat slowed beside the drifting yacht. Its driver, a broad-shouldered man with warm brown eyes and sun-darkened skin, studied the scene with instant concern. He climbed aboard in one swift practice motion, as if rescuing strangers was nothing new to him. "My name's Michael," he said, scanning Patricia, the crying toddlers, the panicked baby. "What happened out here?" Patricia opened her mouth, but her voice cracked. My husband, he left us." Michael frowned, not understanding. "Left you? Where?" She swallowed hard. Her lips trembled. "Here, in the middle of the ocean." Michael froze. For a moment, his eyes darkened not just with shock, but with disbelief and anger on her behalf. "He left you with 3 kids out here? Alone?" She nodded, shamefully. Michael took a slow breath. "All right, listen to me carefully. You're safe now. I'm getting all of you to shore." His voice was calm, firm, confident. A lifeline when she felt she had none. Without wasting time, Michael scooped up one of the toddlers, who immediately clung to his neck, crying into his shirt. He carried him gently to the fishing boat. Then he returned for the second toddler, who was trembling from fear and cold. Patricia followed, holding the baby tight to her chest. When the yacht faded behind them, Patricia's tears flowed silently. The humiliation, the shock, the terror of what might have happened had Michael not passed by. Michael didn't ask questions. He didn't pressure her. He simply steered the boat toward the lights of a small coastal village in the distance, glancing over occasionally to make sure she didn't faint. By the time they reached the shore, Patricia felt physically drained. Villagers peeked from doorways, watching curiously as Michael carried the toddlers off the boat. "This way," he said softly. "You're coming home with me." Patricia hesitated. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," Michael replied firmly. "You're a mother who was abandoned. That makes you a guest, not a problem." His home sat at the edge of the village, modest, warm, with soft golden lights glowing through the windows. Inside, the place smelled like fresh bread and ocean breeze. It felt more comforting than any luxury Patricia had known in years. He brought her a warm blanket, a cup of water, and a chair to sit in. He said, "You can stay as long as you need. No rush, no expectations." Patricia swallowed back tears. "Thank you, truly." Michael nodded once. "Do you have anyone to call?" She shook her head. "No. Daniel isolated us from everyone. I don't have a single person left." Michael's expression softened with deep sympathy. "Then this is your home for now." Later that night, the children slept soundly on a small mattress Michael quickly set up. Patricia stepped outside for a moment to breathe. The waves whispered softly against the shore. She tried to steady her thoughts, but everything still felt unreal. Michael joined her quietly, leaning against the railing of the porch. "You're strong," he said gently. Patricia laughed bitterly. "I don't feel strong. I feel foolish." "Foolish?" Michael shook his head. "Foolish people give up. You protected your children. You held them through fear. You survived." His words sank deep into her heart. Patricia turned toward him, seeing kindness where she once expected judgment. "Rest tonight," he said softly. "Tomorrow will be better." Standing beneath the calm night sky, safe for the first time that day, Patricia felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. The days that followed settled into a gentle rhythm, one Patricia hadn't felt in years. Michael's home, simple as it was, filled her with a kind of peace she didn't know she needed. The children adjusted quickly, laughing again, exploring the sandy paths around the village, and clinging to Michael as though he'd always been part of their lives. Patricia, however, carried her pain quietly. The bruises left by Daniel weren't physical, they were emotional, deep, invisible, and heavy. One morning, she was folding clothes when she caught a glimpse of herself in a small wall mirror. Puffy eyes, hair bundled messily, a body softened by childbirth, sleepless nights, and stress. She lifted her shirt slightly and stared at her stomach. It wasn't flat like the women she saw online. It wasn't toned like the one Daniel now preferred. She sighed, feeling the sting of insecurity. Michael entered the room carrying a tray of fruit for the kids. He paused when he saw her standing silently in front of the mirror. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Patricia lowered her gaze. I don't recognize myself anymore." Michael set the tray down and stepped closer. "Patricia," he said softly, "your body carried 3 children. It sheltered them, fed them, protected them. That's not something to be ashamed of." Her eyes filled with tears she fought to hold back. "Daniel used to say I let myself go." Michael clenched his jaw. "He was wrong, and he made you believe something that isn't true." He hesitated, but continued. "If you want to feel stronger, not for him, not for anyone else, but for you, I can help." Patricia looked up surprised. "Help? How?" "Movement," he said. "Exercise, walks, healthy meals. Not to change who you are, but to help you remember who you were before all the pain." For the first time since the ocean, Patricia felt a spark of determination. And so, the healing began. Every morning, just before sunrise, Patricia and Michael walked along the shoreline. At first, her steps were slow, her breath uneven. The toddlers ran ahead, leaving little footprints in the sand, while Michael stayed beside her, patient and encouraging. By the end of the first week, her legs ached constantly, but she felt alive, more alive than she had in years. One morning, after a longer walk, Patricia collapsed laughing into the sand, exhausted but proud. Michael sat beside her, handing her a bottle of water. She noticed how he watched her, not with judgment, but with admiration she didn't understand. Their routine grew stronger. Light stretches, short jogs, fresh meals made from the fish Michael caught. Her cheeks glowed. Her posture straightened. She felt lighter. Her heart, not her body. Her toddlers adored Michael. They followed him around like little ducklings, copying everything he did. The baby would reach for him with tiny arms whenever he entered the room. It melted her heart in ways she didn't expect. One afternoon, while hanging laundry outside, Patricia caught sight of Michael repairing a broken chair on the porch. He worked quietly, the sunlight bathing him in warm gold. Her breath hitched, a feeling she hadn't expected rising inside her. Was she falling for him? She shook off the thought. It was too soon, too fragile. But no matter how she tried to deny it, every day made it clearer that Michael wasn't just helping her heal, he was becoming part of her heart. One evening, after the children fell asleep, they sat together on the porch. The air was cool, the stars shimmered above. "You're doing amazing," Michael said softly. Patricia smiled shyly. "Thanks to you." He shook his head. "No, because of you." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Warm, electric, honest. Then, quietly, without forcing, without rushing, Michael reached out and gently took her hand. Patricia didn't pull away. For the first time in a long, long time, she felt seen, safe, wanted. And the healing that had begun in motion began to bloom in her heart. The months that followed brought a transformation no one expected, least of all Patricia. With every sunrise walk, every stretch, every gentle push from Michael, the heaviness she carried began to fall away. Not just from her body, but from her spirit. Her face slimmed slightly, her shoulders straightened, her eyes regained the light they had lost. She laughed more freely now, big, full laughs that made her children squeal with joy. She cooked her favorite meals again, sang as she cleaned, and played with her kids on the beach until their little legs tired. She was rediscovering herself, piece by piece. Michael noticed every change. He noticed how she no longer looked down when she spoke, how she held eye contact longer, how she smiled at herself in the mirror occasionally, as if learning to love her reflection again. One afternoon, Michael returned from the market carrying a neatly wrapped package. Patricia raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Just something I saw. Thought you might like it." Inside was a simple blue sundress, soft, flowing, made from fabric that matched her complexion perfectly. Patricia pressed the dress to her chest, touched deeply. "Michael, you didn't have to." He shrugged awkwardly. "You deserve nice things, things that make you feel beautiful." She didn't respond. Her throat was too tight, but the warmth in her eyes said everything. That evening, Patricia put on the dress. When she stepped into the living room, Michael froze mid-step. His breath caught. He looked at her as though seeing a sunrise for the first time. "You look," he whispered, struggling to find the word, "beautiful." Patricia's cheeks warmed. "Thank you." That night, after the children fell asleep, Michael invited her outside. A small lantern glowed on the porch table, illuminating a simple dinner he'd prepared, grilled fish and vegetables. He pulled out her chair with a shy smile. "Is this a date?" Patricia asked, half teasing. Michael swallowed. "Only if you want it to be." She paused. For a moment, fear flashed inside her. Fear of repeating her past. Fear of opening her heart again. But then she thought of Michael's kindness, his patience, his gentle presence. And with a soft smile, she said, "Yes, I want it." Their first date was quiet, but full of meaning. No luxury, no noise, no pretending. Just two souls sitting under the stars, rediscovering the beauty of being cared for. After dinner, Michael reached across the table and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. Patricia didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into his touch, feeling a warmth she thought she'd never experience again. Weeks passed and their bond deepened. Michael became more than a rescuer. He became a partner, a friend, a father figure to her children. He carried the toddlers on his shoulders, He comforted the baby when she cried. He fixed things around the house, cooked meals, and laughed with them until the sun set. Then, one quiet evening, with the children playing in the yard, Michael took Patricia's hand and guided her behind the house to the small garden. In the center stood a bouquet of wildflowers and a simple silver ring. Michael knelt. "Patricia," he said, voice steady yet trembling, "you and your children brought life into my home. You filled the empty spaces in my days. I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?" Time seemed to pause. Tears filled Patricia's eyes, but they were tears of overwhelming gratitude, of healing, of love reborn. "Yes," she whispered through trembling lips. "Yes, I'll marry you." The children cheered around them, and Michael pulled her into his arms, both of them laughing through tears. Their small wedding took place on the village shore. Patricia wore the blue sundress. Michael wore a simple white shirt. The waves carried their vows away as the villagers smiled and clapped. Patricia felt something she had not felt in years. Peace. A deep, steady peace. But life has a way of testing blessings. Because one evening, as Patricia was tucking the children into bed, she heard whispered rumors drifting through the village. Rumors that a familiar man, her past, had returned to the marina. And destiny was about to bring him face to face with the new life she built. Patricia's life had settled into a gentle glow. Quiet mornings, peaceful evenings, children's laughter filling every corner of her new home. She felt stronger, healthier, and more loved than she ever believed possible. With Michael, everything felt steady, safe, whole. But peace has a way of trembling when old shadows return. Late one afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the shoreline, Patricia was gathering laundry when two women from the village approached her. They exchanged glances, hesitant, as though unsure whether to speak. "Patricia," one finally said, "we thought you should know. A man arrived at the marina today, a man asking about a woman with 3 children, and his description matched you." Patricia froze. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She felt her stomach twist as though the ground beneath her had shifted. Only one man would come searching for her like that. Daniel. She swallowed hard, forcing her breath to steady. Did he say why he's here?" "No," the woman replied, "but he looked troubled, lost even." Patricia thanked them and sent them off with the polite smile she didn't feel. As soon as they walked away, she sank onto a wooden bench behind the house, burying her face in her hands. Why now? Why after all this time? Why when she had just begun to feel whole again? When Michael returned home to find her hunched over, he dropped his tools immediately and rushed to her side. "Patricia, what's wrong?" She lifted her head slowly, her eyes glossy. "Michael, he's back." Michael stiffened. His jaw clenched in that familiar way it did when he was trying to keep emotion controlled. "Daniel?" She nodded. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt heavy, charged. Finally, Michael exhaled. "Patricia, whatever he wants, he can't take what you've rebuilt. He abandoned you. That doesn't change." "I know," she whispered, "but facing him scares me. I'm not the woman he left behind. I don't ever want to be her again." Michael knelt before her and took her hands. "You don't have to face anything alone anymore. We do this together." Patricia closed her eyes, letting the comfort of his words steady her shaking heart. The next morning, word spread quickly. Daniel had been spotted walking through the village towards the shoreline. Curiosity buzzed in whispered voices as villagers peeked from doorways. Patricia stood outside her home, her heart pounding. Michael stood beside her, shoulders squared protectively. Then, through the path leading from the marina, Daniel appeared. He was thinner than before, his once perfectly styled hair now messy and overgrown. His expensive shirt was wrinkled, and his face, once proud and smug, looked tired, almost haggard. When his eyes met Patricia's, he stopped dead in his tracks. "Patricia?" he breathed as though seeing a ghost. She stood tall, her new strength reflected in her posture, the tone of her body, the glow of her face. She looked nothing like the woman he abandoned on that cold deck. She looked better, stronger, alive. Daniel's eyes widened, shock flickering across his face. You look different." Patricia met his gaze with calm steel. "I am different." He stepped forward, desperation leaking into his voice. "Patricia, listen. Things didn't go as I expected with her. I made mistakes. I shouldn't have left you. I regret." Michael moved before Patricia could answer, stepping between them with a protective steadiness. "That's enough," Michael said quietly. "She doesn't owe you her pain again." Daniel's eyes flicked to Michael, furrowing his brows. "And who are you?" Patricia stepped forward then, her voice firm. "My husband." Daniel's face crumpled. No, Patricia, you can't mean." "I can, and I do. You walked away from me, from your children. You chose someone else, and she left you too." Daniel's jaw trembled. Shame rolled off him in waves. Patricia continued, her voice steady but not cruel. "You didn't break me. You freed me to find a life I deserve." Daniel lowered his head. In that moment, Patricia felt something surprising. No anger, no hate, just closure. A door closing gently instead of slamming shut. She took Michael's hand. "Please," she said softly to Daniel, "leave with peace in your heart, and let me keep mine." Daniel looked up once more, tears filling his eyes, but he nodded. Slowly, silently, he turned and walked away. Patricia exhaled shakily and leaned into Michael's arms. "It's over," she whispered. Michael held her close. "No," he said softly, "it's just beginning." Days passed after Daniel's departure, and the village slowly returned to its usual rhythm. But inside Patricia, something profound had shifted. For the first time in her life, she had faced her past without breaking. She had looked into the eyes of the man who abandoned her, who threw her and her children into the ocean of uncertainty, and she didn't tremble. She stood firm. She stood new. She stood free. Michael noticed the lightness in her step, the way she hummed as she cooked, the way she played with the children without distraction, the way she touched his shoulder when she passed him in the kitchen, a soft gesture that carried more love than 1,000 words. One evening, they sat together by the fire pit behind their home. The children were inside, asleep after a long day of running through the waves. The flames flickered gently, illuminating their faces with warm gold. Patricia took a deep breath. "Michael, thank you." He turned to her. "For what?" "For giving me a life I never realized I deserved. For helping me see myself again. For loving the kids like they're your own. For loving me, even when I didn't know how to love myself." Michael's eyes softened. "Patricia, I didn't save you. I just walked beside you while you saved yourself." Tears filled her eyes, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of pure, overflowing gratitude. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and Michael wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. The next morning, Patricia woke before sunrise. Instead of going for a walk immediately, she stood in front of the mirror. The woman staring back at her wasn't the scared, exhausted mother she once was. She wasn't the abandoned wife left alone at sea. She was a survivor, a mother, a wife, a woman who rebuilt herself from ashes and salt water. She smiled at her reflection, and it didn't feel forced. Later that day, Patricia took the children into town. People welcomed them with warm greetings, admiration glowing in their eyes. Patricia had become a quiet inspiration, proof that storms pass, that broken things can be made new. At the bakery, an older woman gently squeezed Patricia's hand. She said, "You walked through fire, dear, and look how beautifully you came out the other side." Patricia blinked back emotion. "Thank you." Truly. When she returned home, Michael was building a wooden swing under the mango tree. The toddlers squealed and rushed to him, climbing over his legs as he worked. Patricia watched them, the man she loved, and the children who adored him, and her heart overflowed. This was her family. Not the one she lost, but the one she chose. Months passed, and life unfolded in a gentle, steady rhythm. Patricia continued her exercise routine and grew stronger every day. Michael repaired boats at the marina and earned respect as one of the kindest men in the village. Their home expanded. Michael added a new room for the children and built a garden where Patricia planted flowers she once only dreamed of. One afternoon, as she watered the plants, Michael approached her from behind and wrapped his arms around her. She laughed softly. "What's this for?" she asked, leaning into him. "For being my blessing," he said simply. She turned in his arms, cupped his face, and kissed him. Long, soft, certain. And at that moment, she knew without doubt. Love wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about chasing fantasies. It wasn't about being thin or flawless or easy to adore. Love was choice. Love was commitment. Love was showing up even when storms raged. Daniel chose to leave. Michael chose to stay. And Patricia chose herself. Years later, when her children asked her about strength, she would tell them this: courage is not the absence of pain. Courage is choosing to rise after the pain tries to drown you. And whenever she walked hand in hand with Michael along the shoreline, the waves lapping at their feet, she would smile at how the ocean, once the place where she was abandoned, had become the place where she was found. Her journey began in heartbreak, but it ended in a love built from courage, healing, and a second chance she truly deserved.